Hey everybody, Tony Winston here, following up on my series, Fly Me to the Moon. And today I'm going to talk about the closed voicings and the drop two voicings. So this is kind of interesting because we have a minor chord and a dominant chord and a major chord all to deal with. So let's talk about the minor chord first, and that's going to be A minor. And typically what we do on these chords is for moving up an A minor scale, we start with the basic chord, which is A minor seventh, and then every other chord will be a diminished chord. And we usually have to insert an extra note, so it'll be right here. Yeah, our extra note is between the root and the seventh. So once again, and by the way, everyone, I'm going to install a MIDI strip underneath the keys. So I'm going to be able to do light up keys. You'll be able to see exactly what I'm playing. And I'll be using the acoustic piano. So here we go, a diminished chord, diminished chord, diminished chord, and another diminished chord. Okay, now on the dominant chords, these are a little tricky too. We're going to have a G7, I think, yes, G7. So we start with G7, diminished. Okay. Is that right? Yeah, so. I've always been puzzled about the dominant chord because it seems like one of those diminished chords is a different diminished chord, at least the way I'm doing it. Right here, that's a different diminished chord than I've been using. Then we're back to G7, and if we add the extra note here, that's the typical diminished chord there. Okay, and then the major chord, let's like C major, it's exactly the same as A minor. All right, let's get into the song. So we're going to start with A minor. I'll just put the bass note in so it'll sound like we're in A minor. And then we're going to go down. And right here, we're actually skipping over that extra note, so we're just going to go to A minor like this. All right, but there's another way to do this as well. So first of all, right, it looks like C6th, but it's really A minor. Okay. And then we're doing A minor again, but we're going to D minor. So in D minor, that note right there would be a diminished chord. So coming down on A minor, we have the option. We could do it that way and put this diminished chord in to take us to D minor. Okay, now we're going to go up on D minor, which is, so we've got, and we're skipping up here, D minor. However, since we're going to G7th, we could do the diminished chord that's associated with the G7th block chords. And then we're into G7, same diminished chord. And here we've skipped over this one to get to this one. However, since we're going to C, we could use the diminished chord that's mostly associated with the C scale. Right, because in C, on that note, we would have that. So that's the more harmonically urgent way to play it. As you get to the end of each chord, you play the diminished chord that leads you to the next chord. A minor, a diminished chord that leads you to D minor. And then a diminished chord that leads you to G7th, and a diminished chord that leads you to C major. way to study this, and I did it learning the minor chords first. For some reason, they were just easier for me. But once you've learned the minor chord, then you know the major chord, F major. Same exact thing, the extra note being here. And that's where the extra note was in the minor scale as well. Exact same spot. Right here. Right? Because that's the extra note in F. They call that the bebop scale. And what does Barry Harris call this thing, the diminished six or the flat six scale? I don't know what he calls it. Now, some other things that you can do when you're doing these block chords is, you're playing only one note with the left hand, so you can do these little fluffs here, or we could call them roughs. All right, so. And you can really put them in anywhere, but don't overdo it. Now, the thing is, if you're playing solo piano and you do all block chords, it's not going to sound quite right because you're missing those bass notes, and you can't really tell sometimes what chord is actually being played. Is it a C major or is it an A minor? It could be either one. So if you're playing solo, this is a style to stick in for a few seconds or a few bars, but then kind of work your way back to whatever you're doing in your arrangement, whether it's playing open voicings or stride piano or something that has the bass notes in it. So maybe a little demonstration of that. So I'm kind of getting away from the melody there. And, this is only kind of one approach to block chords. On dominant chords, there is these shapes, rootless shapes, that are very useful. If you were doing G7, and you're not really moving the chord around very much. You're just moving the outer notes. See? There's the diminished chord, and it comes down to this diminished chord. Like that. Same diminished chord. George Shearing handles it that way most of the time. And I'll just do a quick demonstration of the drop 2 also, which is where you just take the second note from the top and drop it an octave, okay? And then usually you get rid of the doubled note as well. So you're doing something like this. And sometimes you just make an alteration, like if you're in G and the melody knows that, just go. Fool around with it. See what works. And you could just do them with one hand too. You could do like that. So I'm doing the same thing. I just haven't doubled the octave there because I'm playing a bass line. quite work. But didn't quite work is good enough a lot of times in jazz. And when I cover a Bill Evans transcription pretty soon, you're going to see that sometimes the chord and the scales, don't really have to match perfectly. And I don't know if he was doing it on purpose or if it was just the natural evolution of his art. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you so much, folks. It's always a pleasure to see you and to hear from you. Leave some comments. I don't get enough comments. I try to respond to all of them, and I always appreciate somebody taking the time to write a little something. All right. You don't have to, but, I'd appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.